What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So hopefully you had a really good weekend. Actually, I had a lot of fun over the weekend, went to too many games, met a bunch of really cool people, including viewers as well as other creators, and it was a really fun time. So I'm looking forward to going next year, pretty much like I go every single year, and I got a chance to pick up some pretty cool stuff, some of which I posted over on Twitter and even in the video yesterday. A couple of semi-rare systems that I think we can open up and take a look at and have some fun with in some tech waves coming up in the next few weeks or so. Today, though, we have a bunch of stuff to go over. We have to talk a bit about the Switch Mini again because it keeps popping up, and there was some information that kind of came out that people weren't really sure of, and some sites kind of talked about it as one thing when it probably should be the other, but then there was some evidence from Game as well, a store actually in the UK. We're going to talk a bit about that, and then we also talk about Take-Two and 2K continuing to push the envelope. And what we saw recently with them putting commercials in NBA 2K19, it's not the first time they've done it, it's actually the fourth time they've done it in months. But it really shows what they're trying to do and how much they're trying to push over there. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure to like button, it does help out. We're going to start today actually with Mixer and Microsoft because it seems that there were a targeted number of layoffs that have taken place over there, most likely to kind of lean into less, I guess, produced content. So think of like the talk shows and the stuff around Xbox or even inside Xbox, for example. I think they're starting to realize that inside Xbox isn't necessarily needed as much as, well, say, an Xbox Direct, right? That's kind of the way I see it. Also, there are several creators on Mixer, I'm sure, that are streaming and would consider doing a talk show around the Xbox or other products pretty much for free, like, video podcasts. So I do question their original programming on Mixer and if they needed it in the first place. I think Microsoft thought that they needed it so they can compete more, obviously, with like Twitch and YouTube streaming and stuff, because they didn't have a bunch of creators show up immediately, so they had to kind of fill it out themselves. I think Mixer has caught on a bit more now. It's not like people aren't all over it or anything, but it's definitely caught on more than when it first opened up and they tried to push out that it was something that was tied to your Xbox and other devices. So maybe they thought, hey, we don't need all these people. It's a shame to see, but hopefully they get new jobs and everything. This just seems like Microsoft moving away from having to create that original content on Mixer, and hopefully I mean they might reimagine their inside Xbox and make it like a 20-minute thing like State of Play has become, because to be honest, I don't really need to sit around for 2 hours watching Inside Xbox and then attempt to do an escape room. Also, if you're a fan of Ape Escape, you might be pretty excited to hear that there's some teasing going on. Sony's actually been teasing for a little bit now about an Ape Escape. We've heard it pop up here and there. We've seen trademarks happen for Ape Escape 3 on the PS4, but now there is a Twitter handle that is tweeting out things like this, for example, that you can actually see a shot of the woods with one of the apes kind of hiding behind a tree looking, and the message actually reads, 20 years since then, I've been running around for a long time, but I wonder if there is anyone out there to chase. Now, this is referencing, it seems, 20 years since Ape Escape in 1999, June 24th, actually, which that would be today. So I wonder if there's an announcement coming today. I don't know. That'd be interesting. That'd be a good time to do it and say, hey guys, remember Ape Escape? Bam, Ape Escape 3, here we go this year. That'd be really cool. So we'll see if they have any plans, but they open a Twitter account. They're posting these weird images and things, and people are getting really excited. So hey, maybe it's time for Ape Escape to come back. We also found out a bit more information about Halo Infinite after they released an update on their site, the Halo Waypoint site. They did actually talk a little bit about when this is taking place. It is taking place after Halo 5. There was some conversation, a bit arguing here and there about when this is taking place, thinking it could be like a soft reboot and taking place after Halo 3. It doesn't actually seem to be the case. It seems to be continuing right after Halo 5, according to Halo Waypoint themselves. They also talk about how split screen is already up and running, so good news there. Split screen is coming back, which is what a lot of us wanted, and it appears that there are going to be multiple betas, or fights as they're calling them, leading up to its release, which shouldn't shock anyone. I'll be more shocked if they don't tie it into a subscription like Game Pass or a new game release. That's very possible that a new game is coming up. Remember they did that with, what was that? Crackdown back in the day. You had to buy Crackdown to get in the Halo 3 beta. Times have changed a bit, so maybe it's like, oh, Game Pass subscribers, you can try it out on these 3 days that will spread out for multiplayer. But yes, we'll see some betas, we'll get split screen, and we have an idea of when it's taking place. So good stuff so far. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're actually going to start with that Switch Mini, Switch Revision, Switch Pro. It's something with a Switch, apparently. Now, look, we've talked about the Switch for a while now. The Switch Mini rumors really started up heavily with the Wall Street Journal earlier this year, reporting that we could see it this summer, like now. And it seems like they have been picking up steam heavily, and I do think the Wall Street Journal is going to be correct with their assessment that a new Switch of some kind is going to be announced probably in the next few weeks, maybe in the next month. I think that's very likely, and we're seeing more and more evidence kind of pile up. We've talked about different things kind of pop up on websites and different places reporting on it, and now we've even seen retail listings from different places. One out of China that was a little stranger because it looked like they're using a fan mock-up to kind of show it off. Well, this one's a bit more interesting because it's actually from a relatively large gaming chain. This one is actually Game. These are the listings you're seeing here, and this appears to be out of their Spanish division in Spain, and this looks like these are Switch Mini listings. We have a Switch Mini protector, we have a Switch Mini transparent case, we have a Switch Mini pack, several of them here. And after these popped up, they have obviously placeholders, they have zero price and everything. That makes sense for a placeholder. They were eventually pulled down from the website, which tends to happen if something accidentally goes live and then they have to take it down from, say, a scheduling. So it may have been scheduled in the system to go up, or they input them like months ago and they set it for now thinking it would have already been announced or something. A lot of times these places will get word that something like this is happening, but they won't actually know when it's happening. And Nintendo Life's actually reported that they have heard, the game has actually heard that there are 2 models showing up. So I guess a Pro model, the Mini makes sense. All right, the Mini makes sense. It's cheaper. Nintendo wants cheap, obviously, to sell to the market that the 3DS is going out from. That I get. I think everyone understands that a cheaper Switch probably needs to exist if there's not gonna be a 3DS, but a Switch Pro, that's one I still need to see for myself to see how much of a pro it is. I still think all the games will play across the board, by the way, so if you're content with your Switch now, you're probably fine. But here's the piece of news that I think really confused a lot of people, and it was kind of put all over the place, so we're actually going to talk a bit about that here, and that has to do with Macronix. Now, if you're unsure of Macronix, don't worry, it's not a big deal, but whenever we talk about game cartridges, so like we've talked about the 8 gig carts, the 16 gigabyte carts, the elusive 32 gigabyte carts, and then the, I would say at this point, they'd be myths, essentially, the 64 gigabyte carts. Yes, the Macronix, they're the ones who actually produce these, and it was reported that Nintendo had actually shown up and said, hey, we need a ton of ROM chips to actually fill these orders. And that sounded very interesting because Macronix was unaware that they would have needed these many. They were surprised that they would need so many ROM chips, and it turns out most likely those are for game cartridges. So if you look at Nintendo's massive second half lineup, it is pretty serious. Starting with Super Mario Maker 2 this week on Friday, it's going to get pretty out of control, obviously, moving into the holidays with some of the big ones. We all know Pokemon, that's going to move a lot. That's honestly probably where a lot of those game carts are going. Then you also have, obviously, Link's Awakening. We have Luigi's Mansion, Astral Chain, and then, of course, several even in July with things like Fire Emblem. It's going to get pretty out of control as we're talking about now, so most likely that's why Nintendo's ordering that many. And I think people more than likely saw Macronix, they make the chips for the system in some way. That must mean, Switch revisions are definitely happening. Now, I will say Macronix also makes the chips that go in the Joy-Con controllers, so if you have a Joy-Con controller, one's in there, a CMOS chip, and they also make them for the dock. So I said, okay, maybe they imagine that they're selling Switch Minis and it also works with a dock, and they're like, oh, we'll need more docks. I'm going to lean towards the idea that game cards more than likely is what they need heavily because of all the releases that look really, really good in the second half, and that's probably why maybe Macronix was even taken by surprise. it's not their job to know that Pokemon and Link's Awakening stuff are going to sell, tens of millions of copies. It's just their job to supply the chips. Next up, let's talk about Take-Two and NBA 2K19, because if you noticed, over E3, it seemed, they made that thing like $3. I think it was on sale everywhere. You could just go in, it was $3, and you had NBA 2K19. I mean, the season's over. Yeah, most likely the entire, basketball season is going to change, and you're going to have different people on different teams and everything, and they want to sell you another one. They want to sell you NBA 2K20 with microtransactions, the whole thing. So how about we put commercials in there? So this is an odd situation. I'm gonna tell you why. We've had this happen several times. Remember how we talked about Capcom a while back with Street Fighter V, how they put product placement, promotions, and even just like commercials basically in the loading screen? It was all over the place there, and people destroyed Capcom for it. So we are now with Take-Two and 2K essentially getting away with it for a while now, because this goes back 5 months to where they were doing commercials just like this. But here's the Reddit post, and guess what? It is the #1 Reddit post on the 2K subreddit. And yeah, it's a very nice salute to NBA 2K about a commercial which is for Snowfall. And as you watch a loading bar, you get a full-on commercial for a show that is coming up. Now, I mentioned that this isn't the first time this happened with 2K and even this exact same game. Actually, if you go back a few months, you'll see people saying, hey, why did I just sit through a Taco Bell commercial while I was waiting for NBA 2K to load? Another one was about a terrible Converse commercial, and there are other examples as well. This just happened to get everyone's attention, most likely because of that sale. So what's really funny is it seems that Take-Two or 2K decided, hey, let's put this thing on sale, and then we'll put a commercial in there for the load screens, and we'll get a ton of views. That probably worked in terms of their contract with, any of these commercials that they're showing. This just happened to be Snowfall right now. They seem to put it when there are higher times of traffic during the NBA season, and now one last shot to get, I guess, that sweet product placement and that sweet commercial deal. So, why is this an issue? Well, the biggest issue here is we've seen that developers, publishers will essentially push the envelope, and they continue to do so. Now, here's my concern about this situation. It's during a load screen, right? Well, the big thing about Next Generation is there's supposed to be no load screens. They're incorporating a proprietary SSD, essentially, some sort of technology to make things load fast. What's to stop any of these publishers, for example, from incorporating an artificial load screen? That's just an idea I have. If I've thought of it, trust me, they've thought about it. We've seen patents all over the place, starting with that Kinect. Remember when people were freaking out about the Kinect because it could tell how many people were in the room? You're allowed to watch this movie. There's 5 people in here. Everyone has to pay. There are a lot of things when it comes down to DRM and product placement, and just in general trying to monetize beyond the amount that they are probably owed for the $60. So consider that going forward. It's not necessarily about what's happening right this second. It's about what could happen in the future as they continue to push the envelope, because these publishers, EA, Take-Two, 2K, Ubisoft, they're going to keep pushing. Next up, let's talk about Mario Royale. Remember how we talked about that? It was this big Battle Royale style Mario 2D game. It was really, really cool. I liked it a lot. We talked about it on Newswave. And then 2 days later, got the DMCA from Nintendo. So I guess I kind of played a part in that. But hey, your game was really cool. I don't know what to tell you. It was really, really cool. But here's the thing. It does not appear to be going away. Instead, he's actually changing out all the assets, basically. Changing all the assets, and they're calling it DMCA Royale. That is a very, very clever. Here's a quick little image of it. Changed out the assets very quickly to some basic ones, and he's going to continue building through that. So I still think you should check it out and play it. It's not technically Mario anymore, but Inferno Plus put in a ton of work. I just wanted to put this back in here for Newswave so you can still check it out. This won't be Mario Royale, and they're going to continue working on it. They've actually been updating it quite a bit, even when it was just Mario Royale, just to get everything as smooth as possible. And I think this is a great idea for Nintendo to do. I would like to see them do something similar to this. I think it's great. I mean, Inferno Plus had a great idea, actually made it work like by themselves, it seems. So, hey, I mean, Nintendo, maybe go get Inferno Plus and let's get a Mario Battle Royale for the Nintendo Online service. And our last bit of news, let's talk about Luigi's Mansion 3, because there's a lot of questions around when is this thing coming out. It says 2019. You guys aren't telling us a date. We're in the back half of the year, but we still just know 2019. Why didn't they give us a release date? Well, Bill Trinan actually sat down with Polygon and gave us an answer, and it was pretty straightforward. Next Level Games is taking their time, and they're putting a lot of care into this game, and according to Bill Trinan, whenever they're ready to tell us the release date, they're going to tell us. But they're trying to form an exact release date, and they don't want to move it or mess it up or change it or anything. I think they are targeting October. That's my guess. It makes sense. It's kind of the spooky, Halloween theme. That's the month for Halloween, so I would guess it would be in there. They might be trying to figure out where in the month to place it, because most likely they want to place it earlier in the month just to make sure it has plenty of time to get restocked or more sell-through or anything leading into Halloween, because that would be a game that I could see releasing a week before Halloween and then actually being semi-hard to find based on stock numbers, just because it's like that time of the year with like Halloween and Luigi's Mansion and everything. So that's most likely what's happening. I don't think it's gonna be November, definitely not gonna be September. October makes the most sense, but I am glad to hear that they're not rushing out a release date just because they feel like they have to. Take their time with it, make sure it's good. Everyone wants Luigi's Mansion to be good, and if it is, I'm gonna be really, really happy, because I've been waiting for one that's not on like the 3DS and one that looks like it's done a little bit better, and this one does. And we'll finish up today with the comment of the day. This one's actually from Jared, as you're seeing here, saying the music copyrights running out is why we still want physical media. You're absolutely right. Music is one of the big issues in games now that tend to run out. We've seen Rock Band songs go in and out of circulation at times due to rights. We've seen things like movie rights actually affect games. Remember Scott Pilgrim vs. the World? That actually seems to be a tie-up with different studios, and doesn't seem to have to do anything with the music though. So we've heard from the original composer and everything about that. And then we've seen things like rights for cars. Yeah, I mean, Forza Horizon 2, for example, we talked about that one going down because of that. We talked about Drive Club doing the same thing. So yes, physical media is very important when it comes to these contracts that are limited in time. And it's more current than you think in some of your favorite games from like the 360, the PS3 era, and even now. So I think physical media is still very important. That digital age seems cool now, but in like 10 years, you might be kind of surprised as to which games are even still around. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Make sure you guys subscribe going forward, as we do all kinds of gaming news here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time. And I picked up some cool stuff at Too Many Games, and we'll take it apart and check it out. Let me know what you guys think about all the stuff we talked about today down in the comments section, whether it's the Switch Mini, the Switch Pro. Are you ready for them just to announce it? Because I kind of am at this point. I just want to talk about the actual thing from Nintendo, but we'll see how much longer this is going to kind of string out here. And then also let me know what you think about Take-Two, 2K, promoting commercials about drugs, even, by the way, Snowfall, in their game. What do you think about that for load screens? How else will they put them in there, and how much further will they push this thing? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.